When we're dealing with compound interest, they can also ask us to solve for the present value or the principal. So if A dollars are to be accumulated in T years in an account that pays rate R, compounded N times per year, then the present value P that needs to be invested now is given by this formula. P, the principal, equals A, the future value, over 1 plus R divided by N, all raised to the power of N times T. So if you think about our compound interest formula we're used to seeing, A equals P times 1 plus R over N, all raised to the power of N times T. Really what we did was just solve for P. So to undo multiplication, you use division. So we divide both sides by that whole big thing that P is multiplied by. And if we do that, that's where our formula on the left-hand side comes from, because this whole thing cancels out. So let's look at an example. It says how much money should be deposited today in an account that earns 7% compounded semi-annually so that it will accumulate to $15,000 in 5 years. So they're asking us how much money should be deposited today. So because they're asking us how much should be deposited now, we're looking for the present value or the principal. So we know we need a formula where we can solve for the principal. And because they're also telling us that it's compounded semi-annually, we know we need a formula dealing with compound interest. So the only formula we know that solves for P with compound interest is that one we just learned about. P equals A over 1 plus our R over N raised to the power of N times T. So I'll go through the process I always do where I list out all the different variables. So we know we're solving for P because they're asking us how much should we deposit now. They're telling us it earns 7% interest, so that's our rate. When I take my 7 divided by 100, it gives me it in decimal form, the 0.07. It's compounded semi-annually, so I know that goes along with n equaling 2. Semi-annual means twice per year. So that it will accumulate to $15,000. So that's how much it's going to be in the future. It's our A. In 5 years. So the T is 5 years. So if we look at this, our A is 15,000. The rate was 0.07. N is 2. And then N times T gives us 2 times 5. So I'm going to substitute this into my calculator or plug it in. So I'll have 15,000 divided by, I need to open up a set of parentheses, 1 plus 0.07 divided by 2. I hit the right arrow to get out from that 2. I'm going to close the parentheses. I'm going to hit A to the power of B. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses, and I need 2 times 5. And I'm going to close my parentheses and hit enter. So that gives me P is 10,633.78221. Remember, they could ask us to round to the nearest cent or to the nearest dollar. And remember what we talked about with simple interest. Whenever you solve for P, for the principal, you always round up. So if we were rounding to the nearest cent, even though the 2 would normally tell us to leave that 8 alone, because we're solving for principal, we would have to bump it up to $10,633.79. If we were rounding to the nearest dollar, we'd bump up because we're solving for principal, but also because the 7 tells us to round up. So we'd have $10,634.